Hello and welcome to IT Chronicles. We're here in Las Vegas for Gartner Data Center. Thank you for coming. David Wunderley, thank you for joining us here today. I understand you're going to be presenting today, or I believe Wednesday, is it?
Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday. And I know you guys have done some great work. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, what you're doing, and what you're presenting on?
Sure, absolutely. First, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I work for Pitt Ohio. It's a transportation company, logistics out of Pittsburgh, PA. Mostly Mid-Atlantic, but we do some work in the Midwest and South as well through some acquisitions. And we have a carrier network called TRNet, which basically gives us coverage over all of North America. Primary transportation, logistics is sort of our fun on the side. So basically, I'm the infrastructure I&O director at Pitt Ohio, manage the data center team.
Right.
And my presentation I'm giving on Wednesday is a use case study on hyper-converged integrated systems at 10:45. Something that's really changed the dynamic in our data center over the last couple of years. And basically, we were at a point, an inflection point, where we had a bunch of technology that was due for either a rip and replace and refresh or something we had to do to continue doing business as usual to run our data center. And we took that opportunity to look at two options: either continue doing the way things we do today, or actually change that dynamic and see if we can change and increase our productivity and be more agile and get away from the constant run and firefighting and the pain in the butt every engineer deals with in a data center, into actually changing and being more of a business service related for our business.
And you thought a hyper-converged approach was key to that?
Absolutely, yeah. It's really been a game changer. I actually, the technology's probably been around, I want to say, for 6, 7, 8 years. I actually saw it at the Gartner Data Center conference years ago. Sort of kept my eye on it and talked to my team about it. I'm very lucky to have a very technology-driven team that really believes in change. So it's one of those things that was always in the back of my head. And every year we at least try to find 1 or 2 of these technologies that are sort of up and coming and keep our eyes on it and see hopefully things that can help us. Doesn't always work. But in this case, it was a really big change for us because we were looking at changing our compute, backup, data protection, our whole virtualization platform, and even the storage is part of hyper-converged. So there was definitely an inherent risk there, and it's one of the reasons that we did it slow and steady and sort of watched the marketplace to see where it was going. But for us, I mean, it's been such a huge change and benefit. So we've been in production for over 1.5 years, and it's really been incredible.
So for someone that's not familiar with what hyper-converge is, what is it in 140 characters or less?
That's a tough one. So basically, it's the idea of convergence. So traditionally, data centers 10 years ago, you have your compute stack, your white-based server boxes, you have your storage backend, usually a separate backup product to do that, and then some secondary, slower speed, or low-cost disk, and replicate your data. So you have business continuity. And convergence basically is just following the web scale companies like Amazon and eBay. They need the ability to be able to just drop equipment in quickly and build out. And HCIS is basically that same idea, but sold from one vendor to companies like myself, mid-size, and the larger enterprises. And you see, the marketplace started going in that direction even outside of these all-in-one boxes. Probably 2008, 2009, Cisco UCS was really that first, the big term back then was Convergence 1.0. This is probably 2.0. But we actually were the first Cisco UCS production customer in Pittsburgh. So it's like we're sort of used to jumping on this technology, but I mean, this has really been, even on top of that, it's been incredible.
So if somebody were to ask you, are you doing private cloud, do you say yes or no, or both?
Yes.
Or? Yes,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
so this is essentially your private cloud strategy is based on the hyper-converged infrastructure.
Yeah, we do a lot with Citrix desktops and delivering to our users. Basically, our goal probably 9 years ago was get to a point where we could deliver everything out of the data center anywhere any of our users were, or if we had an outage at one of our sites, they could go home and work, or wherever it may be. So we've been building this journey probably since that 2007, 8, 9 time frame to get to the point where we're at today.
So I know the keynote address already started talking a lot about some of us that we keep mentioning, positive business outcomes, aligning value, business operations. So from your perspective, what are those sort of business goals that you guys were trying to achieve? Because you weren't doing this just because you felt like it.
Right, just for fun.
Yeah, just for fun, right? So
cool.
What are those business objectives that your business leadership was seeing that you had to make the case for it, right? So what sort of, because I think that's where, from an IT perspective, we tend to lose out. We don't always express that. And obviously for you to be able to go that in sort of a, I don't want to say radical way, but in a different direction, you had to make a strong case for it. So what was that case?
I think the biggest thing for our company is we continue to grow every year, and acquisitions and just natural growth. It's just reacting to that growth and more and more and more, and they need this, they need it now, and the consumerization that everyone's been talking about the last couple of years, and everyone now is just used to getting everything now.
Sure.
You go home, you download an app, you got it. They want that same thing in the business. So we're at the point where we really didn't have a choice. I have to get better in my data center. I don't have time to spend 6, 7, 8 hours provisioning storage anymore. I need to stop being reactionary and get ahead of that bell curve, basically. So a lot of it sort of sold itself, I would say, internally. I'm lucky I have a good CIO and CEO that really believe in technology and taking advantage of it to make us a better sell for our customers. But still, I think the most difficult part was it was a lot because of all those different traditional stacks. Like if I say, hey, I need storage, and CIOs used to needing more storage for more business, but that transformation of all of this, obviously that was, I don't want to say a culture shock per se, but it was definitely more of a conversation. But I think the method of us, me bringing that up back in 2012 and constantly sort of talking about that and saying, here's where I think it's going to go, and my team getting on board and us following it made that transition easier now. I think it would be tough for any director in my position in another company just to, go here one day at the data center conference and then come back and say, hey, we're buying this right out. It would definitely be tough.
It's a journey. I assume you had the public cloud conversation. How did that play out?
So cloud to us really, we like to pick and choose what we consume from public. But one of the things interesting about Pitt Ohio really is that we've always relied on internal expertise. And I think a lot of it is we're a family company, private company. Company's been in the family since the 1920s, really, before it was actually formed into Pitt, Ohio, 1979. And I think a lot of it is we just, not that we don't trust those companies, obviously they're delivering good service, but we have the expertise in-house, we have a good staff, we've always done a good job for the business. So I think it's more of finding financial sense in those areas and where we need that to help us out and sort of, as to leverage them to help us, but not necessarily as lifting the whole stack and putting it out there. So it's more of bolting it onto it and helping us in some functional areas as opposed to pushing out big segments out in the public cloud.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like you guys have really kind of taken that big step forward, and we'll try and definitely get to your session on Wednesday, like you said. So that's great. Thanks for joining us. I mean, I wish you the best in the success. I'm sure there's going to be some more hurdles along the way as things keep changing. But congratulations on your success, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks.